Good morning, everyone. My name is Vanessa Rader and welcome to Between the Lines Live. Today we're joined from a panel to talk about a pretty interesting topic. So we've got Eddie Mansour here. Eddie is our managing partner at Ray White Projects. And we're joined today by Adrian Sicari, who is the managing director of Ultimate Building Co. So welcome to our discussion and our Between the Lines Live. So live, nothing's off the table today.
Thanks, Vanessa, and thank you to Ray White and Eddie for inviting me to talk on iCIRT rating and what it's all about.
Yeah, that's right. So a bit of background. So you've more than 25 years experience in the building game. You're the first building company with a 4-star iCIRT rating. So before we probably just start off, give us a little bit of a rundown about what that rating is all about.
So I'll just give you a bit of background on Ultra Building Co. So Ultra Building Co, with my background, I'm ex-Mirvac, I'm ex-Built, ex-Toga Development. We started Ultra Building with one person, now we've got 70 people. We work in all industries, so from residential, multi-residential, industrial, commercial, built to rent, hotels, affordable housing. So with the iCIRT rating, why we got the iCIRT rating is that we saw an opportunity to differentiate ourselves in the market. We already had processes in place. Ultra Building already had processes in place, which I learned from Mirvac, from Built, and from working at Toga.
And just so people know, those that aren't sort of familiar with it, Mirvac, Toga, Built, one of the most top performing, established, process-driven builders. Would you agree?
Yeah. What the whole purpose of the iCIRT rating is to ensure there is high quality outcome at the end. And to ensure a high quality outcome at the end, there needs to be a process, like McDonald's, exactly like McDonald's. So we go through and document up the job. We coordinate the documentation, make sure it conforms under the Australian standard and the NCC, which it used to be called the Australian, under the Building Codes of Australia. And then we make sure that once it's all signed off, it's installed correctly and then documented with photographic evidence so someone can go back in the future and check that it was done accurately.
And that sounds simple in a lot of ways, right? It's like we talk about the simple McDonald's model, but what brought the commissioner on? What brought the iCIRT rating on? I mean, what do you think? Do you think we needed it at that time, or do you actually?
There's actually a lot of builders out there doing the right thing, and there's a small minority of the builders that bring all the other builders down. And we were very, very easily placed to get the iCIRT rating. That's why Ultra Building Co got 4-star. We were the first builder to get 4-star rating under the iCIRT rating scheme. Now that's all connected with the building commissioner, the Class 2 regulation, and so forth. So we went through the process. The process is pretty detailed. It actually analyzes the people. It analyzes their qualifications. It analyzes their past experience. It analyzes, they go through references from consultants, all the architects that I've worked with in the past, my guys have worked in the past, all the engineers, they did references on clients. They did police checks because a lot of builders, a lot of people start construction companies that aren't builders. Yeah. I'm a builder. I've been delivering jobs all my life.
And we probably saw that through 15, 16. There was a lot of developers that decided to start building themselves. And they weren't necessarily builders, or they didn't have, like you were saying, process systems. They thought, right, we can build this without all the things that came with it.
And as a result, we had all the issues with defects and stuff so many years later, but we'll talk more about
that. So Vanessa, you're 100% right. So what this whole process is trying to do is create a high quality outcome to eliminate defects and major defects. All right. So if you start from the start and you've got a process and you adhere to that process and then you document that process and then you make sure that process happens, obviously, building is actually very cut and paste.
Yes.
It's very documentary. Like all our Ultra Building details, we use on every job. It's proven, track record, done. Waterproofing detail, there you go.
And you've worked on some pretty complex jobs. I mean, things that 1788 Double Bay, which we've been privileged to be a part of, and I think that's where I initially met you. That basement is an amazing, like I watched that be formed and come to the building come to life. And
Yeah,
considering
so
the location of that and what you've done there is amazing.
you're 100% right, Eddie. It's funny, when people come and look at our jobs, I take them straight to the basement. Do you know why? Because that's the foundation of the job.
Yeah.
You don't get the basement right, you will never fix it. Now, with 788, it's a 2-level basement under the water table, fully water tanked. We've done 8 of them now in the past, and mate, they're just watertight. I take people down to that basement and I say, listen, stop talking for a minute. And can you hear water running? They say, no. You know why? There's no water.
Yeah.
But that went through the documentation coordination process, that ultra building lead with the consultants, with direction. We get it documented up. The waterproofer signs it off. The architect signs it off. The engineer sign it off. And then we make sure every process is done accurately, documented all the way through to the end. And we do high risk assessments with everyone involved before every activity is executed. Like we're doing one right now for the second stage, where we connected 2 underwater basements, and we had the supply of concrete there, the additive of the concrete guy there, the form worker there, still fixer there, the concrete pump locations, the risks involved, what could happen wrong, how do we actually fix them and make sure it doesn't happen, traffic control, council, police, the whole lot. Because you're thinking, we're pouring 850 cubes and we've got to do it within 8 hours. It's a big exercise.
Yeah, of course. Well, there's actually a lot of questions that come off that. And the first one I think of is cost. So you're doing a really great job. It's all these extra steps along the way. That's all, it's an additional expense.
It's not additional.
It's not additional?
No, it's not additional because
already
we're
there.
already doing it, right? No, it's not additional because everyone to get iCIRT rating already had that processes in place, the already costs in place, the supervision in place, the training in place. The biggest reason I probably started Ultra Building Co. is to have a group of people under the same ethos as myself.
Yeah.
We are builders. That's our job. That's what you pay us to do.
Yeah.
We're here to build, and all my people, Ultra Building guys, from girls to guys, understand they have to understand how to pull apart their building.
Yes.
And visually put it back together. Once they get that in their head, they study the documentation. If they all do that, they get to know the answers, the solutions, the problems. The building has always been done by someone in the past, right? There's always a solution.
Yeah.
So Eddie, when you take people through this project as a great example, is there a storytelling that goes along with that to explain the robustness of the rating and how you are partnering in effect with a builder that takes all this stuff?
So if we sort of even take it back to the first the first stage of the project, and I was introduced to Adrian by SJD Property Group. Alex Hour was leading that sort of time. I remember somebody saying to me, "Oh, who's Ultra?" And I sort of didn't know much about Adrian or Ultra as a company at that point. But probably one of the things that I've always appreciated and love is, and you can see him in his signature orange high vis, is that when we were talking to prospective buyers, when we talk to purchasers and even residents today, they all know Adrian mainly because of the high vis, but more that he's front and present with with what he's building. He's there, he's contactable. There's a lot of builders out there that hide behind the build or whatever it may be, and they're not front and center. And when you're buying a property, and especially with what's been out there, don't get me wrong, we've got some great builders that we work with that aren't iCIRT rated, or not yet. I think a few of them are working towards it, and a few have made the decision they don't want to do it. I agree with Adrian that the biggest thing that lets a lot of these builders down is the documentation part. And we've been quite privileged of being able to make some customizations in some of our projects. One of them being 788 with the purchasers, but that even the basic documentation sometimes is missing. They can be great builders, but it's either the process or the systems around it that what lacks.
Yes.
And so from my perspective, that's one of the things I've always appreciated about Ultra and the build of what they've done. But I think that also what's got to come with that is enabling of a builder by the developer. So developers also got to collectively work with Ultra. We've sat down on many occasions as a team and work through the build, or work through, right, this is what this needs to be done, or can this be, we need to review this, or look at this, or this purchaser wants this can be done. And we're doing it collectively as a team. And that's probably what makes a projects are successful, mate.
And sorry, just to interrupt there, but the consumer, so someone that doesn't know anything about ultra building companies, they come and come and have a look at your.
So the iCIRT rating as
Yeah,
such,
do the consumers know about this rating scheme?
I think it's growing, and I think with every issue that comes out, and the commissioner's out there with his team and certainly looking at things, I think that's growing more and more. We certainly promote it. I've noticed Mirvac have been promoting it. The guys that have got the rating are promoting it more and more, and I think it'll grow the consumer confidence around that.
Well, because that's what it's about. It's about the confidence for that end purchaser to know that they're buying a quality asset and it's going to be there, and you're not going to be hit with some expense further down the track like a lot of these other kind of big developments.
So just to expand on the confidence of the market. So the confidence of the market when they look at the iCIRT rating is one. That guarantees, but the consumer and the funders and the clients and the developers are becoming more interested to know the track record of the builder. Before there was iCIRT rating, you guys or SJD, the client, and all the people involved, they looked at the track record of Ultra Building Co. And we've done iconic projects. You're talking about Bohem in Bondi Beach. It's an $80 million mixed-use job. You got 40 apartments. I delivered that in 2013. That was 40 mixed apartments, a hotel and retail, and 4-level, very complex basement. I did Ferrari Maserati in Waterloo, which is a very complex job, again, for Neville Crichton, and when I worked at Built. And you got 788 is they're the top 3 projects. I like all my projects, and they're all ultra building projects. They're very complicated and they're very beautiful, but the beauty will only last if the quality in depth is embedded 100%. From the foundations to the structure to the waterproofing to the ventilation to the fire rating of every penetration is documented and the solution. So you can go to any penetration, any floor with a waterproofing detail, and you can pick it up and bring it up and have a look. It's all tested and trialed.
I think part of the issue, coming back to your point, Vanessa, is that what has happened is some of the negativity of the issues on certain buildings hasn't allowed the iCIRT rating to really flourish as yet.
Yes.
And I think that's sort of media, wrongly or rightly, media attention is sort of more on the negative than the positive of what's being done. I think that, with the commissioner coming in, with the iCIRT rating coming in, there's a new strata insurance scheme as well. That's sort of coming slowly in. Those are the things that are going to build that confidence.
Yes.
And I think that if we go back, say, back to 15, 16, that I made my point on before, I think that we've come a long way since then. And I think buyers feel a little bit more ease at knowing that they're in place. Should we be promoting it more? 100%. And I think Adrian's business does, and Adrian personally does a really good job of that. We probably haven't promoted on individual projects where there is an iCIRT rating enough, and that's probably something we should be doing.
Can I get an idea of like what proportion or how many builders in New South Wales actually do hold this rating? There's obviously there's a process, quite a detailed process to go through to get this rating, but
I don't think there's many, to be honest.
I
don't think there's many at all. I don't think there is many that have a 4-star iCIRT rating, government accreditation, and Federal Safety Commission rating on top of that, and Green Star rating. The reason I've mentioned all that is because it just firms up that process, and we get audited outside, and every one of those accreditations gets audited once or twice a year. So
that was the question.
So we're getting audited.
We're
getting audited all the time. So what that does, it creates a compliance throughout the company. And now, obviously, you've got to have a certain size company. I've got a full-time safety guy, and I've got a full-time compliance guy that makes sure every project is at the same level. And that's hard to do when you've got 10 projects. It's even harder to do, and I feel sorry for them, is the larger companies. The large companies got 60 projects, 50 projects, a lot larger than Ultra. So they're going to have, to be fair, they're going to have a harder chance trying to get the rating system because they got a lot of stock out there, right?
But even like companies like Daycorp, Mirvac have got it. I mean, there's some bigger names out there. I mean, I sort of look at some of those smaller builders as well and I do wonder because, we talk about construction costs, and that's just not only relating to a rating system, but it's materials, skill.
But you need to differentiate between a developer builder and just a builder. We are limited to what the money we've got than a builder developer.
Yeah.
All right. And a builder developer has the the corporate, has the sophistication to get in there, design it right, get compliance, and then build it right, because they're just
They've
a
got it
one
from A to
process,
Z.
right?
Yep.
When we're a builder trying to educate a developer that you spend money up front to get a better outcome at the end, it becomes a bit more of a learning curve. The sophisticated builders, developers know.
Yes.
And you got SJD, Lindsay Benelong, Goldfields. They will spend the money up front. You got Wynnum that we work with, Creative with Eason. There's a lot of developers now doing an ECI process.
Yeah.
All right. You got Podia. The reason the ECI process is so great and advantageous is that you can actually you can go through and de-risk the project.
So do you want to quickly explain what ECI process is?
When an early contractor involvement agreement is when you get an experienced builder like ourselves, Ultra Building Co. We step in and we coordinate all the consultants, and we coordinate it to meet compliance. We unblock all the lead time issues with all the authorities, which could take months.
Yeah.
And we design the building for the budget.
And that's what sort of
Design the building for the budget, not allow the documentation to be progressed so far in front and then go out to the market and every builder's above the budget and then come back. That process going out to the market can come back and take a year.
Yeah.
So you just fast track that whole process by about 6 months. But it needs to take a sophisticated, experienced developer to understand that.
Very cool.
And you mentioned the green rating as well that you guys have. So that's something we're seeing far more that the consumers are looking for. They're looking for these kind of energy efficiencies or water efficiencies, and a lot of the things that the Green Star ratings kind of are looking for. Are you seeing that that's a big growing part of your business, and do you expect that going to just become more prevalent?
So the couple of jobs that we're doing now for the ECI, they are 4-star rated apartment, or they're 30% commercial, 70% apartments, and it's 4-star Green Star rated. So we are pushing for it. There's a lot of efficiencies, but I don't want Green Star to start becoming a token.
Yes.
Right. There are some situations where Green Star is starting to get like tick the box, looks good, but it makes the project unfeasible, and it makes the project unfeasible for the end user.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to make the project unfeasible for the end user. So it needs to be a bit of a balancing act.
And Eddie, are you seeing more of the customers coming in looking at projects? Are they seeking out these sort of features?
That's a good question. I mean, we do get, ultimately it's about getting the right layout, the right finishes, the right look feel that they want to move into. The green part does come up, probably not as much as what it should probably at this current point. And then probably it comes up on the larger scale projects, more boutique projects in the east and stuff. We're not really seeing as much, but as we probably would have thought.
Yeah.
Energy efficiency, that sort of stuff has been mentioned, but the Green Star part's probably on the larger scale projects.
Yeah.
The reason for that is the apartments have usually got windows. They don't use their aircon 24/7. They're not there all the time. Their lights are probably on between when they get home at 7 and go to bed at 9.
Yeah.
There's not much energy consumption in an apartment. In commercial, where you're there from
it's
a lot, you're working there a lot more hours, a lot more people.
Yeah.
You've got to be more efficient, and the end user is usually the building owner, and he wants to save costs on power, which we then can do.
Yeah, just going back to the iCIRT rating. So we don't think there's a lot of builders, there isn't a lot of builders in the marketplace that have the rating. In order to maintain your rating, there's some real robust kind of levels of auditing that needs to go on. Do we think that there's increased pressure by the Commissioner for more of these builders to come online as accredited builders?
Do I think?
Yeah, well,
or do I know?
Do you know?
No.
Well, no, I know. We know that there
So,
is. But what's the future for this? Is there gonna be a point where like that's gonna be the new standard? It needs to be done, or do you have an opinion about that?
So I know for a fact that iCIRT rating was brought in by the government. The government wants all builders to be iCIRT rated. They are also pushing for commercial builders to become iCIRT rated.
That's going to be one of my questions.
That's going to be the next step. So what they're trying to do is create a benchmark, and I think it's fair because good builders like Ultra Building were already doing it. So why should good builders who have the ethos of building high quality outcomes be bought down by other builders taking shortcuts, right? So if you want a quality builder, you go for an iCIRT rated builder, and you've got to spend and invest in those type of people that make the iCIRT approved.
I think your point before, Adrian, majority of builders are doing a good thing, are doing a good job, and that's the hard part, is that minority seems to take up a lot of.
Well, they get the headlines. Right?
They get the headlines, right? So they get the exposure, the headlines. They create, doubts in consumer confidence around new builds and stuff. And we see it. We've had several sort of standouts in the last few years of issues around new builds that have occurred. So there's got to be a sort of solution where they, like government is going, well, let's go down the iCIRT rating, because. And I know that, that they don't only look at workmanship and build, it's about the balance sheet and things like that as well.
They do look at the balance sheet. They look at every aspect of the job: safety, quality, the people, track record, what's been happening on your past jobs. They investigate every nook and cranny of your business. Because
that is a question that we do get asked quite a bit. Who are they? Is this bill going to be complete, and all those sorts of things. So. I think that, again, probably fleshing out and probably people understanding more about what's behind an iCIRT rating and how does that occur. I don't think that's probably been done to the extent it should be at the moment. And I think that's where people aren't very clear as to what they're getting. I mean, we see it, we know it, and we sort of take, there's one part for Ultra, it's one part being an iCIRT rating, but we know Adrian, we know that he's also approachable. We know that the buyers can see him, and even through the completion of 1788, we saw he stayed constantly back in the building if there was any issues or any little, and they were all minor, but they were very quick and fast in getting back. Yeah,
so we've actually created Ultra Building Aftercare. So after PC, we've got a group of guys and girls that go around and maintain the building. It's funny, we get called back, how do I operate my microwave? Right.
Yeah, I've had.
You built that, right?
Well, we're the oracle of all issues on projects and their apartment. But yeah, we've got an aftercare process that goes through. And if you talk to any of our apartment owners, they love the guys and the girls that go and help them.
I suppose the visibility too, and that becomes a difficulty if you're a really, really large organisation that you're spread across so many different projects. I understand they'll have their individual teams, but it becomes a bit difficult. And also you mentioned, Eddie, something about that strata insurance scheme.
The 10-year, the 10-year scheme. So I think they're rolling it out at the moment. I think they're going to give people either an option to do that or an iCIRT rating. I mean, I think the iCIRT rating is probably a more solid.
Look, that's a reactive measure, and it's probably the scorched earth situation. You're better off doing the job right, doing it right, and quality right, and it's still very expensive. And I'm pretty sure
and that's an extra layer, which will add an extra.
I think the insurers will want the building to be right before they give insurance.
Yeah.
So it's
still a lot of things.
It's still a lot of clunkiness around that.
And with the iCIRT rating, that's a New South Wales thing, yeah?
It's only in New South Wales.
So do we know if there's other measures in other states, or there's the kind of want for that sort of accreditation of some description to?
Look, I can't comment on what's happening in the other states, but the other states seem to be more vigilant on their builders.
Okay.
You don't see as many. I don't hear as many problems in Melbourne or in Brisbane or in Queensland or in Victoria.
It's interesting that I mean Gold Coast in particular, and Brisbane, you've seen a couple of builders recently go under, unfortunately. But that's not very different to what's happening in New South Wales. No, and I guess it is part of the thing. I mean, every time something like that does happen, I mean, for a developer to go under as one, is an ideal. But when a builder does, that throws a very different scenario in, because, like Adrian's saying, it's has all the documentation been covered? Has the process has been covered?
Yes.
We've seen it over the years where work stopped in the basement or when it gets to ground, and from another builder coming to take it on, do they want to take the risk of what's been built in that basement?
That's right.
So you spoke about insurance, and if you have a different tack, why not pay the right money for the right builder or the right credential, the right track record, or the right to finish your job
Yeah, in the first instance.
in the first instance,
Yeah.
right? So
But that's a trap that developers fell into at one stage. I mean, you and I have had this discussion before on several key jobs, you know, that we've spoken about over years. It almost becomes a race to the bottom to try and make sure that the feasibility works when sites were up.
That system, the race to the bottom, has come back and burnt many builders. Look, it's we've had to compete in the industry. So yeah, the last 3 years when the material prices and everything went up, it has taken a bit of a battering to our business. But during that time, I was being able to consolidate and get my people at a level. At a higher level. Now I've got a general manager in for a succession plan. I've got a head of construction. I've got now a senior construction manager that can help me over the 10 projects that we're doing. That 10 projects is near $300 million worth. And I've got 70 people. But I only started as one man.
Yeah.
And it was only 7 years ago that I started. But with my experience of building with the Builts and the Mervacs and the Toga, it allowed me to develop my skills and mentor the people around me and place the risk managers to make sure the issues didn't occur, or if they did occur, how we combat each issue.
Yeah.
Because there's always problems, right? That's how you do it.
Because I think that's what we've, you know, having worked across a few different projects with many different builders, I think that what we're seeing is that the skill, there's a lot less people sort of the skill set at the moment, and then probably actually trying to get them to, you know, there's some great guys out there, but actually getting jobs finished, getting delays, costs are all contributing factors to potentially. And the reason why I mention all that is that you come back to that iCIRT rating, they are constantly looking at all those key components of how it's being done.
100% correct. So that's why we've got our top level of construction experienced guys looking after our teams. I still do it, and I look after my 3 projects. They look after their 3 projects, and they look after their 3 projects. And that's how it's like a pyramid. I do actually go to all the projects, but the projects I look after would be more than that. And I also go, we also spend time where to risk. So at the moment, we're doing the hydrostatic slab in stage 2. I'm spending a lot of time making sure that my guys are doing that slab correctly. If there's a risk on another project, I'll go and just spend a bit more time with there. And my senior guys do the same. And when it comes to the end of the job, my senior guys are there giving a bit more energy to the project teams and the subcontractors to get it over the line.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what it probably takes, work with an iCIRT rating. And I know a couple other builders that we've got people on that we've got projects on that they're building, and I look at it, and the ones that do have the iCIRT rating that I know very well, they're all very hands-on. They've all spent a lot of time with their team in terms of getting systems, processes.
Well, you need to, because it's required. Otherwise, you're not going to get through that auditing process, and it would probably only take one small chink in the chain for it to kind of unravel a little bit.
We just don't need to. We love it.
Yeah.
My team loves it. We actually love construction.
Yeah.
We love pulling things apart, looking at it on a piece of paper, and then you visualize these pieces of paper turn into something that people live in, and they play in, and they sleep in, and they work in, and get entertained in. Like, which other business can you actually produce something that someone uses?
Yeah.
I've got to admit, after sort of 25 years of selling off the plan, I still get quite excited when I've walked in. You know, I've been looking at a paper, analyse it,
and then
so
you see it there in the flesh.
Seeing it, walking through it, it's quite exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
And so we're nearly out of time, and I think this has been a really good education process to understand this whole certification and what that possibly means for the building industry. But what do you see as the next thing for building? What do you, we've had a bit of a kind of a slow with the high construction costs, with the DA stuff that's kind of been sitting in the pipeline for a little while. We're seeing a lot of that construction starting to ramp up. You guys are clearly busy, but
There is less jobs starting, Adrian.
Number one, there's no supply.
There's no supply.
There is no supply
We know
of
that.
houses.
Yeah.
Apartments. So that's going to be the next step. The ramping up of developers is going to come thick and fast.
Yeah.
The high-end residential is going to keep going.
Yes.
All right, affordable housing, and that's probably hence why Ultra has the 4-star iCIRT rating, the federal accreditation, and the government. We can see that the government has seen this, and there will be a rollout of projects where we can actually build them more effectively and hand them out a lot quicker.
Yes.
Right, and that is all got to do with planning, prefabrication, and having an authority system that is more
Robust. No, I could just
not robust, quick.
It's quick,
quicker,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We
That's
don't
part
want
of
to,
the issue, isn't it?
that's the issue, and having the minorities stop projects.
Yeah.
People need places to live.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
we're still seeing
When
these
is
super low.
when's the government going to put their foot
vacancy.
down and go give more supply,
Yeah.
expand more land, let people do the developments, and let people live? Like at the moment, the interest rates are high. There's nowhere to live. The prices are high.
There's got to be
Give more supply.
Yeah.
Give the land out for cheaper.
And we saw build to rent, like in the federal budget announced yesterday, there'll be some concessions in regards to that. So is build to rent something that you
Well,
guys
we're
have been
doing
part
we're
of?
doing 2 built to rents right now,
Okay.
right? And that is all to do with efficiencies and allowing people to live somewhere where close to the city.
Yeah.
Right, you're talking about Mascot, which is only 20 minutes away. Very good location. You're talking about one in North Sydney, another built to rent, and another job in another North Sydney project. So yeah, we're looking at built to rent. Affordable housing is all going to come up, and yeah, providing houses for people is our game, and we provide good quality houses.
Yeah.
We are not just high end builders; we are high quality builders,
Yes.
and we can build high quality at any level.
Yes.
All right, you change a finish from $1,000 to $20, it's still going to be high quality.
Yes.
But the skeleton of the building, the foundations, the structure, the waterproofing, the fire rating, it still has to be high quality in every
And
instance.
that's where a lot of that iCIRT, when you're doing that ordering, that's what a lot of that they're looking at. I mean, the finishes and features are nice, but they're all looking at how's it being built.
Mate, I've built 300 grand apartments to, don't want to know the high point, I think maybe 3 and 5 million in construction costs per apartment.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that probably takes us to the end of our chat. Like, this has been a real interesting one. I didn't understand a lot of the complexities around the accreditation, and yeah, super appreciate you coming in, Adrian, and talking to us. And thanks, Eddie, for your
Thank you.
perspective on how the consumers are seeing this. So on that note, we'll leave you here, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Between the Lines Live. There'll be another one coming up next month, so make sure you register. I'll be going down to Canberra. It's freezing cold there at the moment, but be down in Canberra and chatting to the guys there about all the different commercial markets that are in Canberra. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks very much.